Hello and welcome to the Diminishing Returns podcast. This week we have the return of our very special guest, Judey Bignell. Hello there.
Hello.
I am Alan Turing, as always, and this is Sol Harris.
Hello.
Now, Judey, I introduced you first there because you're responsible for this week's episode.
Oh, no pressure. Thank you.
Would you like to tell the good people listening what film you chose to do for our show?
Oh, hang on. That's not how this worked, was it?
No, I chose it, but I chose it on your behalf. So
that's true. I have
been
pestering you for about 2.5 years to do this particular film series.
Go on.
Why?
Is
it because you hate Ted Danson and you want to slag him off? Because he did something to
No,
you?
not at all. No, quite the opposite.
Is it because you hate good films and only watch shit films from me?
No.
Is it because...
you keep inviting me on to talk about him. It's your eggs on your face, my friend.
Is it because you felt bad about being so mean about cinematic masterpiece The Iron Giant, and you thought, I better give Sol a chance to just berate me for my taste for 2 hours?
You a chance.
Okay.
No. You have chosen to invite me to talk about the 2 films, 3 Men and a Baby, and 3 Men and a Little Lady.
Oh, it's a little lady. Now,
yeah.
I know you watch these films on repeat most days.
Well, that's that's unfair, and yet also in the right ballpark. So, yes.
So I'm assuming this is a sort of something you saw as a child. Maybe is some sort of nostalgia element here.
I'm assuming you spent a stretch in a hospital, and this was the only VHS tape, the only.
I'm assuming you had some sort of head injury.
The only form of entertainment, and you just had to watch it on a loop for 6 months, and when you were done, you even though you know it's awful, you just couldn't help but kind of have a nostalgia for it.
See, what we learn from this, boys and girls, is that men assume too much.
Oh, sexist.
Well, you are. You're both going, I assume it's to do with this.
We just happen to be men.
Just like Tom Selleck when he assumed that the baby was the package.
Perfect.
The folly of man.
No, so to give you a little bit of a background, I actually watched the second film first.
Me too.
And it was introduced to me when I was about maybe 9 or 10 by my stepmom, actually. It was one of hers. It was on VHS. Well done. So they're quite a fan, that side of the family are quite a fan of twee films. So this is also the same woman who introduced me to Sound of Music, which I saw for the first time with my stepmom and my dad. But 3 Men and a Little Lady, I don't know, I really loved it. And maybe it was because I was a young kid and I had a relationship with my dad away from my relationship with my mum. And so it felt kind of, I don't know, maybe I resonated with that.
Was your mum a terrible, terrible actor with an annoying accent as well?
No.
Okay.
My mum was not Nancy Travis, although I love Nancy Travis in this film. She's brilliant. So... yeah, I saw that one, and I didn't see 3 Men and a Baby until probably about 5 years after that.
Too scary, isn't it? That ghost. Whoa.
No. So I kind of did it all backwards, but it worked quite well for me. I don't really feel like you need to have seen the first one to understand the second one. There's a few references, but otherwise it works as a standalone film. So...
that's interesting because I watched the first one and I was like, I'm sure I've seen this before. I don't really remember anything about it. Then when I watched the second one, it was like, I know this film inside out. This seems really familiar. Oh, wow. So I think I'm the same. I think 3 Men and a Little Lady is the one that's resonated down the years more. I'm curious as to why that might be.
Because it's got a kid in it.
It's also, not to give too much away, it's the far superior film of the 2.
Wait, which one?
The second one.
Okay.
Fuck off.
What is that? Wait, what? Who just flushed a toilet?
I first came to this franchise via 3 Men and a Little Lady, which I suppose,
we're all the same.
Yeah, which does suggest that it's the popular choice. I reckon, honestly, just to throw it out there, I think it's probably something that we, being our age, came to first because it's the more sanitized one. The first one has some degree of bite. There's a drug subplot.
Yeah.
There's a bit more swearing. There's more sexual innuendo. The second one is like, oh, there's a kid in it, and it's way more family friendly. Yeah.
Well, because she's a baby, it's like she's just kind of a bit of a prop.
Yeah, exactly.
Although obviously the story revolves around her, I guess. But
yeah.
she's a bit of a prop in the adult, complicated life and changing. And
I say I saw the second one first. I saw a scene or 15 minutes of it.
Oh, which bit?
Basically, there were these really annoying neighbours where we used to live, like really fucking weird, proper like won't let her kids watch The Simpsons kind of parent, spend too much time in the library kind of parent, and I think we'd been invited over for dinner or something, and then my mum basically couldn't be asked. She was like, "Oh, for God's sake!" And she sent me over to, like, on her behalf kind of say, "Oh, my mum's feeling ill, so we can't come over for dinner, sorry." Then when I got there, the mum and her kids were like, "Oh, well, you're okay, aren't you? Come on in. And I was like, "Oh God, no, honestly." And they were like, "No, come on in." And they basically forced me through awkwardness, like through sheer embarrassment and not wanting to just be like a dick and leave. They forced me to watch 15 minutes of this dreadful film they were in the middle of on the TV. And I sat down and it was this little girl going, "Penis!" And then
that was the bit you walked in on.
And every time they said penis in the film, the kids would like laugh maniacally, and the mum would go over the top of it, like censoring it, because God forbid her kids hear the word penis used in a non-sexual context. It really pissed me off. It was like, I was probably, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, and I was just like, "You fucking kidding? It's penis. Grow up, for fuck's sake." And I just kind of said, like, "Sorry guys, I've got to go," and went after about 10 minutes.
My mother's bleeding to death.
That viewing experience, I was surprised, pretty much set the tone for like these films and what I think of them. Although I have never seen these films properly before. I'd certainly never seen Three Men and a Baby. So I went into this with an open mind, and I was fairly excited. It's got Ted Danson, or at least it says Ted Danson's in it in the credits. It's got Leonard Nimoy directing. That'd be interesting.
Famous for his directing ability. Yeah.
Well, he made probably my favourite Star Trek movie. Good at getting performances, if nothing else. You've got Tom Selleck, who obviously is also well known for his movies. And then we'll
I think he's being sarcastic.
And they obviously couldn't get Greg Kinnear or some other incredibly bland, white, boring comedy leading man, so they went with Steve Guttenberg.
It was 1987 though.
Yeah, we'll let that one slide. Steve Guttenberg, whatever.
I'm going to introduce the hashtag Leave Steve Alone.
Do you want to play a little quiz? It's called
Name
Anything That Tom Selleck or Steve Guttenberg have been in.
Short Circuit.
Friends. Boom. Friends. Magnum
PI.
Police Academy.
Yeah.
This is going to be our most listened to episode because I'm going to put Friends in the metadata in the hashtags and what have you.
Steve Guttenberg, right? What's he been doing for the last 30 years?
Not a lot.
Well, after Three Men and a Little Lady, he didn't work for 5 years. Do you think that's a sign of the quality of the film? Or is that
I think he's meant to be a bit more of a bland character.
He's the bland character, yeah, but that doesn't mean why is his career as a whole just seem to stop.
Yeah, Jason Bateman's still going strong.
He didn't. He's done more.
No, he hasn't.
Like what? What has he done since 1990? Name one thing he's done.
P.S. Your cat is dead. The Stranger. Rocket Power. Single Santa seeks Mrs. Claus.
Name a real film. You can't
I'm on IMDb.
Judy, you can't just make films up. Name a real film.
I'm on IMDb, but the point is he's done a fair amount. Not like loads of really good stuff, but he's had work. All of this boils down to, yes, you guys clearly don't sound like you're going to like this film, and these, not even for the nostalgia, I mean, it's not like I watched them as a kid and then went away and forgot about them, then was like, oh yeah, God, they bring back memories. I've watched it consistently since I first watched it, and I've seen them probably both over 10 times. I wanted to rewatch them for this recording. I'm not going to lie, I didn't have time. It's fine. I pretty much know the script. So...
I made a note.
You surely can't knock the opening credits and that song.
Oh, God, yes you can.
No, it's such 80s goodness.
No, I made a note saying this montage is doing nothing to endear me to this film. That wasn't my first note.
But back in the time, back in '87.
Yeah,
that's
look,
just what happened.
that's fine, but it's a sped up montage of nothing remotely interesting happening. It's just like it's like when people open a film and they don't know what they've never like done anything before, so they think it's totally acceptable to open the film with your character getting out of bed and brushing their teeth and like making a cup of tea, and it's not got any bearing
there's
on
more
anything.
exposition than that. So isn't the song it's called Bad Boys?
Bad boys. Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah,
it's awful.
I like that song.
Because they're all boys, you see.
But they're not bad boys, so they're very good boys, really.
You see Tom Selleck like jogging down the road, and he sees a pretty girl, and he turns around and runs back, and you see them being bachelors, and it sets up their lifestyle as three bachelors living together.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the song, you've got the context. Like, how is that not working as a device?
Look, my first note is the baby's going to get painted onto that mural.
in the second film.
Nope. At the end of this film.
Of the first film.
Oh.
And that was my first note.
But what's wrong with that? It's you know what's going to happen. Like you know what's going to happen in this film. That doesn't make it a bad film.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
I shouldn't be able to call that level of detail with such outright clarity within 30 seconds
Why not?
of the film starts.
You analyze films. Why shouldn't you be able to pick up that?
Because a film, especially comedy is surprise. Stuff is funny because it subverts your expectations and catches you off guard. And this film is apparently this film is a comedy.
So, the film is called Three Men and a Baby. I mean, how the hell are you meant to have kept that a surprise? Like, that was obviously going to happen. It's in the title. The story, the journey they go on, is the surprise.
As I said before, I mean, I was surprised that it actually ended up being two men and a baby. And a cameo
and a
from
drugs plot.
Ted Danson.
But the point is, you know that it's going to be three guys. You know that there's going to be a baby. And so at the end, it's not surprising to think, oh, the guys will have come to love the baby.
Yeah, but...
Should we do a brief plot explanation, by the way? And by that, I mean you.
Yeah, go on then. Someone.
Go on, Alan. Take it away.
So there's got three bachelors. They live in an impossibly large apartment in
They're bad.
New York.
No, it's not impossibly. You've got the joint income of an architect, a successful cartoonist, and a professional actor. Like not like a you actor, like an actual getting work actor.
Oh, he doesn't really get work.
It's an impossibly large apartment. Yeah, they're all bachelors. They like the ladies.
They're bad boys because
they all live together.
Because they want to try and sleep with women in a kind of like no strings attached kind of way. But
how you doing?
But Steve Guttenberg, he's too much of an inherently yeah. So he like ends up helping these people fix their relationships and stuff. But he's still apparently a bad boy.
So Ted Danson is the actor who sleeps with like loads of ladies and lives in his friend's apartment without paying as much rent as he should. Tom Selleck is an architect, so he must be the one with all the money because he's paying for everything. And so yeah, they live the bachelor lifestyle. Then one day, knock on the door, and there's a baby.
No, before that. There's a party, and Ted Danson's like director mate, producer mate, whoever it is like, "Oh, can you do me a favor?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Look, I'm out of the country next week, but I need to have a package delivered. Is it right if it gets delivered here and then some people are going to come and pick it up?" And Ted Danson's like, yeah, no problem. All right, then Alan, what happens? Oh yeah, then Ted Danson goes to Turkey to do a film, something. Yeah, and he tells the other two guys. He says to the other two guys, "There's going to be a package at some point, so just look out for that. Just put it on the side. Don't worry about it." Then carry on, Alan.
Okay. So they basically go to the door one day. There's a baby there. There's a note on it saying, "Hello, I'm Ted Danson's child. Look after me, please, because my mother's abandoned me." And then the other two, because Ted Danson's not there, the other two like have to panic and look after it. There's a whole drug dealer subplot that kind of doesn't really go anywhere. And then,
what do you mean it doesn't go anywhere? It gets all tied up.
Yeah, it gets all tied up at an hour in.
Well, yeah, but like without that, there wouldn't be any plot at all. So at least they tried.
That's fair. That's true. And then Ted Danson comes back, and he's like, "What, baby?" And then they like have to look after a baby with only 3 people to do it.
But they come round to making it part of their permanent life, because the idea is that they think that with the package confusion, they think that the baby's going to be collected, and then they realise that the baby's not. So they really adapt their lives and they start making it work and start actually enjoying themselves because they get the hang of it. And then, twist at the end, the mum turns up and's like, thanks for keeping my baby warm. I'm ready to take it home.
Yeah, and just like Madeleine McCann's parents, everyone's like, oh, it's so good that you've turned up. Not like, oh, throw him in jail, negligent parent.
Okay.
I feel there's a
But the
slight
point
difference
is, there's then the twist at the end is kind of like, oh, will he let her go? And it's not about a girl, it's about like the baby. Will he let her go?
Do you know what my fourth note is?
Why?
It is, I'm not sad that Leonard Nimoy's dead anymore.
Oh, well, that's charming.
And that was like, what, 20 minutes into the film that I'll have written that down?
Why? You've said it's very 80s. You've said it's quite predictable, but I don't really get why you sound like you really strongly hate this film, and I'm not sure why it warrants that strength of feeling.
Well, I'll tell you why the film's crap. And frankly, I blame the director for it, because the main problem here is that these three characters that we're following have no personalities, and they're really not distinct from each other. There's not enough going on to make them interesting or compelling in any way, or in fact to really believe anything that they're doing, that they care about this child, that they care about anything. It's all just so basic functionary stuff. I just never cared about anything in this film. Never once cared about anything. And
yeah, I agree.
The structure is quite poor. It doesn't really
Well, there isn't
flow
really
very
a
well.
story, is there?
Yeah, the drug deal subplot is kind of fills up a bit of gap, but then that kind of just stops. Very, very poor film.
I made a note that the film is aggressively nothing, which I think is similar to what you were just saying. I have made a note about a joke that I enjoyed. Well, enjoyed's a bit strong.
Mm-hmm.
You know when Tom Selleck's trying to buy a toy for the baby, and he says, give me the giraffe. And then this guy who's manning the weird little cart outside's like, giraffe, that's a dinosaur! And he's like, dinosaur? Yeah, it's a dinosaur! And he gets like really angry about it. That's the first thing resembling humour in this film.
Oh yeah, but Sol, you've got a weird sense of humour.
I know.
Yeah, but that's you don't laugh at the funny stuff. You laugh at stuff like
all right,
that.
Tell me, what funny stuff? Tell me some funny stuff in this film. Tell me one funny joke in this film.
Well, I don't think it's.
It's not really about jokes. It's just they're
no, it's not
pleasant
that. It's
characters.
Just, okay, so I quite like. It's not like a laugh out loud ha moment, but I quite like. I think it's nicely set up when at the beginning, for example, at the party, there's a girl who asks Tom Selleck, like, "Oh, are you still seeing Rebecca?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, we have an agreement. We see other people." And then the guy asks, like, "Hey, are you still seeing Rebecca?" And he's like, "Yeah, exclusive. Yeah, 4 years or whatever." And I think that's, that's a nice, not laugh out loud, but a nice humor. That's well timed. It's well paced.
That's setting up his character that he's a player. Like he'll say one thing to her, but they'll say something else to him, and then that never comes to anything. He's just.
But okay, I'm not talking about it coming to anything. I mean, as a humor, as a humorous bit. I think that's quite good. It doesn't have to be slapstick.
So that's the high point of the humor.
Why do you think I'm after slapstick? If I'm laughing at a guy saying it's a dinosaur, in what way is that slapstick?
It's not. I'm just saying.
I think that giraffe dinosaur scene was improv, and Leonard Nimoy was there. Oh, this is great stuff. Yeah.
I'm not saying that's slapstick. I just mean I think Sol, you find that funny. Yeah, but hang on. Okay, here's a test. Sol, do you like Rick and Morty?
Oh, it's a fantastic show.
Yeah, there you go. So that's my point.
What do you mean that's your point? It's one of the most popular shows in the world right now. Yeah, but
that's what I mean. Like, it's a specific type of humor that isn't necessarily in this
funny humor.
Anyway.
Look, guys, are you a fan of Friends?
Well, I love Friends. Friends is funny.
Very
Friends
funny.
is very funny. Again, look, see, I love loads of popular humor.
But that's it's not too dissimilar in that sense, the kind of.
Well, it is in that Friends has actual jokes in it, whereas this just kind of has like, I'm Ted Danson, I'm kind of high energy and I'm a bit awkward. Oh well, hey, it's me, Tom Selleck. I'd like to buy some baby food. Well, you can't buy that baby food. Oh, I don't know anything about babies. Oh, I'll just buy all the baby food. Alan, are you editing this one? Put a cricket in. Put a cricket in there.
Well, I think that the film is not good. Okay, like if
Well,
these
you don't think it's good.
if these actors had decided the day before filming to swap roles, swap characters, it would not have made any difference whatsoever.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Steve Gutenberg's the result of someone dropping out the day before anyway, isn't he?
He was very popular in 1987. Okay, just deal with that.
Hashtag leave Steve alone. Thank you.
Well, I found it very boring. My first note is I'm 15 minutes in. The baby's only just turned up. I'm very bored. My next note was, if this baby doesn't stop crying, I'm going to turn this film off.
That was the point.
I know it was, but it worked too well.
Did you turn the film
off? I muted it until it stopped.
You know what Steve Gutenberg is, right? He's a poor man's Dan Aykroyd. And that is the most scathing thing I could possibly say about another human being.
I got another note that when they come round, the drug dealers come round and ransack the house, and Tom Selleck comes home, he realises what's going on, and I made a note, I was like, we're 50 minutes in and they kidnapped the baby, this plot's finally going to get started. And then they didn't kidnap the baby's still there. So that didn't go anywhere. I thought we're actually going to get some plot.
The baby's been kidnapped, so there's a twist.
Oh yeah, great! 30 seconds of suspense instead of the next hour worth of plot where they have to go and get the baby back.
Those mobsters as well. What kind of a film is this that they couldn't even get Joe Mantegna? It's come on.
No, they didn't want to make him too Italian.
They should have put Joe Pesci in as one of the mobsters.
No, because the problem with that is everyone will keep confusing him with the baby.
What about the fact that the message of this film is that unless you've got a child, then you're a fucking useless twat, and when you have got a child, it'll sort your life out completely?
No, that's not saying it will sort your life out. It's about learning to love.
If it means you have to recklessly abandon your child, like, just because you need to work some shit out, then that's fine. Do it. Just
I've been dreaming about Alan quoting this film to me for 4 years. Come on, Alan, hit it on me. Come on.
Okay, so Ted Danson tries to pawn the kid off onto his mother, and says to his mum, "Look, I'm a screw up. I can't look after a kid." And she says, and I quote, "You were a screw up. Now you're a father."
Now you're a father.
Because if you're a father, you can't be a screw up.
No, she's trying to say now you've got
guys
something.
both could attest
you've
to
got
that,
someone
can't you?
else. Oh.
Look, to give the film credit, to play devil's advocate, I think perhaps what they're trying to say, although it's poorly worded there, is, look, you are a screw up, but now you have to just fucking pull your shit together.
That's exactly what I was about to say. You've got someone else to look after now.
Yeah, you're responsible for someone else, so that's it. You have to worry about their well-being now. And it's worded in a way.
Close one door, now your future is you're going to be a father.
There's some very crap plot elements here that don't make any... it just feels like no one's read the script or tried to make any sense of it. They know they're being tailed by the police, so they have to get away out of the house without being seen. So Ted Danson gets up in disguise as a woman and sneaks out, and then the other two just run out of away from the police really fast, so they can't get him. It's just, what's the point of any of this?
Because he's an actor and it's meant to be a comedy bit.
But I thought they were going to distract. I thought they were going to be the distraction while Ted Danson goes and sorts the situation out. And why does he go to such trouble of hiding the drugs in a nappy, with a fucking scalpel and stuff, when he could have just shoved them behind the bookcase?
Because no one's going to...
They think the police is searching.
Yeah, baby's nappy's the last place you're going to look, Alan. It's full of shit.
Exactly.
It's full of shit.
But no
one would put their cocaine in a nappy in the right mind, because then what if the baby shits on it? You don't want to be snorting shit.
It's heroin, actually. Don't snort it. But
you're right.
You're right.
It's it's something that isn't necessarily realistic, but we're talking about a feel-good comedy.
Does this film make you feel good?
Yes. Why the fuck do you think I've watched it more than 10 times?
I don't know, you could be a nihilist.
It does not make me feel good.
Feel-good fun.
Abandoning a child. Is that fun?
What? Jesus, as if that's the only point that comes from this film. The point is not child's abandonment. The point is child's integration into a new family.
Well, through necessity, because they were abandoned, they had to be adopted.
It doesn't. Well, it's not to do with the abandonment.
Yeah, I've only ever had one family because I've never been abandoned. Maybe I can't relate to it.
You are just pulling the punches today.
Not pulling them at all. I'm landing them really hard.
Yeah, pushing them.
You wonder why I don't come on this for a while and to give you space, and let it be known it's because you're a dickhead.
Are you talking to me or Sol?
You. Sol's an antagonizer.
Look, I'm normally nice. I had to watch Three Men and a Baby followed by Three Men and a Little Lady, so I'm in a bad mood. I'm lashing out.
It's a feel-bad comedy of the year.
Yeah, that you know what? That's true. This film, not so much this film, but the sequel, and having to watch them both in quick succession, like literally put me in a bad mood. Genuinely, the second one made me angry.
When they eventually, they manage to reveal the drug dealers and the policeman turns up and they're like, what the fuck's going on? And they're like, those guys are the drug dealers. And the policeman goes, oh, great. You can be on your way. I'll call you if I need you. I'm like, what? What's that? The police know that they're involved in some sort of drug dealing thing going on. Like, at the very least, you would take them in and question them. Yeah, they hand him a tape and say, this will tell you all you need to know. They don't even say, this tape shows that we're innocent. And even if it did,
fact that it's a feel-good comedy and not a crime drama. This is why it's not playing realistically.
Comedy has to come from a place of truth in order to be funny. Otherwise, it's just random shit.
My point is that all these elements that don't make any sense and aren't very realistic really degrade the film because it just shows a lack of care.
This script feels like not just the first draft, but the first draft of like a high school writing assignment. It's the kind of like, oh shit, it's due in tomorrow. Oh well, I know I've got a vague idea of this might make a nice story. There's like some drug thing happens, but I don't know what happens with. Oh, it's all sorted there. Oh, I still need to write 12 pages.
And then
I don't think it has enough of a textured and layered plot as the second one. I think the second one has a more successful plot. But
Jesus,
hang on.
Christ.
I'll come on to that.
But I think there's something quite nice about the simplicity of it being three guys having to go through this. That's just what it is. That's what the film is about.
Well, you know, this film is based on a French film.
Yep.
Yes.
And have you seen it?
No.
I have.
Is it better? I bet it's much better.
Was it French?
I doubt it's
It was
great, but I
French.
bet it's much better.
It was made in 1985. It's called Trois hommes et un
Bébé.
couffin. Three Men and a Cradle.
That's a better name already. That's already better.
Three Men and a Baby, and sort of saw that it was a remake of this film. So I thought, oh, I'll see if I can find it. And I watched it. It was made in 1985, so a couple of years earlier. It was actually nominated for the best foreign Oscar.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was France's entry. So they were obviously very happy with it.
Les Français ont pris
Carry on.
de l'Oscar. Qu'est-ce qu'elle a tué?
It is. I mean, it is basically exactly the same plot. It's all the same beats are there,
Okay.
and it does sort of suffer from the same problem in the sense of that it doesn't. The whole drug dealing thing kind of finishes halfway through, and then the Ted Danson character comes back.
Judey, can we play a game? What do you think the three main character names are in the original French version?
So, just to remind everyone, the American version has three characters called Michael, Peter, and Jack.
Jacques, Pierre, and
Yeah.
Come on.
I don't know.
Oh,
What's
come on,
Michael?
you can get this.
Michael.
You can get. Yes.
Go on.
It sounds a bit Spanish.
It's Michelle.
Michelle. Oh yeah, because it's a girl's name. Ha, girl. Okay.
Yeah, the plot points are very similar, but it is handled a lot better. It's like the whole police element works. It makes sense. The girl who abandons the child doesn't.
The teenager.
No, but it makes a lot more sense. She doesn't just leave it there as an abandonment. She sort of says like, "Oh, I have to go for this job. You need to look after it while I go." She still leaves it on the doorstep, so it's not that much better. But then when she comes back and takes it back, she takes the baby back and has it for like 6 months. And it really gives them time. They're like, at first they celebrate. They're like, yeah, we can go back to our bachelor lifestyles. And then over a few weeks, they realise that they're missing something in their life now that they've had it. And they miss this child.
That's meant to be in there, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but in the American version, that happens over the course of about
30
minutes
seconds
of real time.
Yeah, but
in terms of film time.
No, hang on. No, it's 7 minutes of supposedly bit more montage, isn't it? It's not.
But no.
meant to be...
She picks the baby up and leaves, and they're like, "Oh yeah, oh no, I'm sad. Let's run to the airport."
Okay, yeah. So they act a bit sad, but they don't own up to it. And then it's meant to be that time's passed, and then Jack's like, "I feel this thing," and then he's like, "I miss Mary," and then suddenly everyone's like,
"That is about as well written as this film is." I feel a thing.
In the French version, it's handled a lot better. That you get this sense of
You
sort
see
of
them go back to their
slow
lives.
descent into kind of depression and
Je m'appelle unhappy.
And then the girl turns back up.
J'habite
Basically
a
saying-
house of sorrow.
The girl turns back up and says, "Oh, I can't handle it. I'm trying to do this kid on my own and have a job. I need help." And they're like, "Well, we'll help you. We can be here anytime." And so it feels a lot more natural rather than running to the airport because they suddenly decide they all need. This,
Yeah, but they needed a dramatic chase scene because nothing
No, they didn't.
dramatic happens
No, they
since the drugs
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
I've
that's
seen
true.
the version of this film where they didn't have that, and it worked a lot better. So obviously,
Yeah, but the
they didn't
American
need that.
version felt that you can see it's in there as a dramatic device, right? That's why they've put it in there.
The French version is considerably better, even though it's almost exactly the same plot. The only gag that I could think of that's in the American version that isn't in the French version is when Tom
It's a
Selleck is
dinosaur,
reading-
pal. It's a dinosaur.
Yeah, that giraffe toy is in the French version though.
Dinosaur. Et qu'est-ce qu'elle a
So-
tête dinosaur? On te dinosaur en oui.
So the only joke I could think of is when Tom Selleck is reading to the baby and he's reading like a report of a boxing
the basketball.
match.
Yeah, okay.
So it's quite an aggressive like thing. And they're like, "Oh, what are you talking like that for?" And it's like, "It doesn't matter. It's just the tone of your voice."
read her. It's
Yeah.
the tone you use.
Which was a nice little bit, and that's not in the French version. Everything else is like literally right up to them buying nappies that are too big, and then it falls off, and then she pees on the couch.
But what about the bit with the talcum powder? Then he's like, "You're going to clean that up."
I just think that was Steve Guttenberg falling over. I don't think that was deliberate.
What about the joke where they capture a real life ghost on camera?
Do you mean the cardboard cutout of Ted Danson that everyone's like, "Oh my god," about?
Yes, he does. So
I think that is probably the only reason that people know of this film is about that scene, which is ridiculous because it's very obviously a cardboard cutout of Ted Danson, and then there's a cardboard cutout at the beginning of the second one, and it's like, oh, makes complete sense.
Well, yeah, they obviously put that cardboard cutout in because of all the rumours. Just to cover up the ghost in the first film, they were like, "Oh, we better put a cardboard
not a
cutout in the
ghost.
second one." So we can say it was a cardboard cutout. Bear in mind that this was, this rumour was going out when this was a VHS film that people were watching on a shitty little TV.
Yeah, back in the days, that's how I saw it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why you were terrified when you watched it, because
I wasn't terrified.
people were easier to scare back then.
Nah, I was more scared of the other Ted Danson film, as Alan knows about, called Loch Ness. Little blast from the past there.
That's not the one with Werner Herzog in it, is it?
I don't know.
Millions of people are believing that in these deep waters, some sort of a dinosaur is dwelling.
It's good though, isn't it? Because this film would have nothing going for it whatsoever if they hadn't just lucked on to catching a ghost haunting the film set like that.
Moving away from the ghost.
It's like in The Wizard of Oz when they just happened to start rolling cameras as that Munchkin committed suicide in the background.
You what?
In The Wizard of
Oh,
Oz
don't.
when they...
sorry.
Is this a thing that I don't know about that's quite famous?
Apparently,
Alan, you've actually told him to don't. This is new for you.
I was talking
Your
to
voice
you,
said
actually.
distasteful.
I was talking to you. As in, don't encourage him. So the ghost thing is a very boring story about a apparent ghost in this film. It's not worth talking about. So
It's the most interesting thing about this film.
it's not though.
By a mile. So what's
Thank
more
you.
interesting about this film, Alan?
That's just not interesting. It's
It's
just
a well-known
really-
urban legend. It's funny. There's jokes about it in
It's
comedies.
one of those so famously not true urban legends. that it's
Unwarranted,
like,
yeah.
it's just pointless and boring.
Did you know that there was this babysitter, and she was babysitting, and then
So far, so good.
and then the parents phoned up saying like, "Oh, what's going on? You're right. How are you doing? How are the kids getting on?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, put them to bed. One thing, I had to put a blanket over that really scary clown statue you've got in the corner. It's just freaking me out.
Yeah, this is a
It's freaking me
terrible
out, freaking me out because
We don't have a
it's
clown
too
statue.
realistic, and like the way it looks like it's breathing, and the way it looked like it was wanking off at one point when I was like just watching TV was like, oh man, it was freaking me out. So I put a blanket over it, so it's all right. And then they go, "We don't have a clown statue. Get out of the house now!" And they run outside, and they get in the car, and she's driving in the car, and then this guy starts trying to like run her off
Alan,
the road.
start talking.
And
Stop
she's like, "Oh
talking.
no!" And she pulls up in the in the petrol station, and then the guy in the car chasing runs over, and he's like about to attack her, and she's terrified, and then he like grabs, and there's like a clown in the back of the car, and he beats up the clown and goes, "I was trying to wave at you to tell you there's a clown in the back of your car." And that really happened.
Talk about a story not going anywhere.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Real life isn't as well structured as the intricacies of 3 men and a baby. I'm sorry.
That's not, well, you should be sorry. It's a wonderful film.
So, how do you feel, you guys, about the representation of men and women in this film?
Pretty alright.
I think that genuinely, the film really upset me because it really, really, really should have ended. And I kind of thought they might do this. With the mum turning up and you know, saying, "Oh, I'm back. Give me my baby back." And they go, "Well, no. We've bonded with her now. You can't just abandon your kid and then decide you want it back. That's not how it works. Like be a good parent or don't." And I thought they were going to tell her to fuck off and call the police and have her thrown in jail for reckless abandonment of her child. And they don't, do they? Instead they go, "Live with her, we'll all be a big happy family." Fuck off. Never even met her before. The one thing you know about her is, 1, she shagged Ted Danson without any form of contraception and kept it, and 2, she abandons kids on people's doorsteps. And
she abandons the child. It's not like she goes to him and says, "Look, this is your kid. I'm sorry I can't handle this. You need to handle it for a while." She leaves it on a doorstep with a note, with no guarantee that anyone's even in.
Exactly, because he isn't in. He isn't in, and she doesn't know anyone else is in.
He's away for 10 weeks.
If he didn't live with 2 other people, that baby would probably be dead now.
But I don't think it portrays women particularly badly. I think the point is that Sylvia's character is meant to be flawed. And then with men, yeah, it plays into them as a stereotype at the beginning. And then the point is...
the entire film is built on mining a man as a parent. A man raising a baby without a mother? That's hilarious!
It's not designed to be laughable. It's designed to be kind of
Imagine
a fish out of water.
How many men does it take to raise a baby? 3! This summer, in cinemas! 3 men and a baby!
I don't think you can make... I think if you were going to make this film now, you would do 3 women and a baby. And it'd be like, look, women are useless with babies too if they've never done it before.
Yeah, probably, and it'd probably star Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy, but
Scarlett Johansson, I reckon, trying to prove her comedy chops.
But the point,
and failing.
I mean, I don't.
57% on Metacritic.
The male-women kind of representation was different in the 80s. That's, you know, it is just what it is. And yeah, it wouldn't be handled the same way now, but I also don't think it's particularly offensive.
I mean, you're right. Tom Selleck was a viable lead man in 1987, so that's how the representation...
And apparently 1990, I still think he's a bit of a stud in the other one.
One reason why I asked that is because 3 Men in a Cradle, the French original film, was written and directed by a woman. Colleen Saul.
You sound so surprised. By a woman.
Well, yeah, having a female writer-director is unusual now, so it certainly was unusual in 1985. But the fact that it's such a male-centric film, as in all the characters are male, in the French version, the female characters are handled a lot better. They're given more time, more sympathetic, a little bit more reason. Whereas in the American version, they're barely even acknowledged. Apart from, like you said, the girlfriend of Tom Selleck, I think she's
Rebecca.
Pretty well handled, yeah. But the fact that the mother character is so badly handled in the American film is...
But I think that's meant to be the point.
It's meant to be the point that they're badly handled. No, it's because Spock directed it, and like, he can't do illogical characters. He doesn't understand what the motivation that would make someone be so illogical.
See, what you've done there, Sol, is you've confused an actor with the character that he plays.
Oh, what?
Yes.
Yeah. They could have at least like suggested she'd got postpartum depression or something, you know, something that we can go, okay, she was behaving irrationally, now she's okay, so we can forgive that. Or if they'd just done it in a different way, like I say, in the French film, it's essentially the same, but the motivation behind it seems less brutal. And when she comes back, it's like she's asking for help, and it's just.
Or, you know, if the film just seemed to be in agreement that this character's a piece of shit, But it's not. It's like you're meant to be on her side and like, oh, thank God the mum's come back. Oh, she had a hard time. Oh, well. If the film was like, look, this scumbag's turned up and want like trying to put their kid in more danger, they're probably going to put it to bed in the oven or something for all we know, if this is how they think you raise a kid. Fucking hell, you can't trust someone like that with a kid.
But it's just, there's nothing there. It's just like, she comes back and says, Laurie, I'm taking this baby. And it's not even like they have an argument about it and then they go, well, she's the mother, we have no rights, we can't do anything about it. It's like, well, one of them's the dad, so, I mean, legally speaking, he has rights. But it's just that they completely accept. It's like, well, you know, we have been looking after this child, but, well, she's a woman, so obviously she'll do a better job than we will. We have to let her have it.
But Tom Selleck's character does say, hang on a minute, guys, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this. And then obviously you think that that's going to be the point, and then he also says, we'll build you a room. But it does get addressed, it starts to get addressed, I'm not comfortable with this. They don't just all take it laying down, it starts to get mentioned.
There's one thing I want to say. You know when Tom Selleck takes the baby to his, like a building site where he's working?
Yeah, the little hard hat.
And he puts a little hard hat on. I just want to say that hard hat would do nothing to protect that child.
I know it would do nothing. It would do nothing, but that's not why
very
it's
irresponsible.
there.
It would actually help because, you know, it covers up the
soft spot.
The soft spot. So if he just dropped a wrench on it, it might
Wrecking
survive.
ball.
But yeah, if something significant fell from up high, it'd probably snap the baby's neck, probably like knock it out of Tom Selleck's hands, and
Yeah, but okay, that is definitely there to be cute rather than anything else. There's no way that a baby would be allowed onto the worst parts of the construction site.
Well, it's good they just have like a little joke hat for babies on the site, isn't it?
Well,
just in case someone brings their baby.
He ordered it. Come on, he's got money to fling at this shit.
Well, how long's he had it? When did he order it?
He got it made for her.
Okay, so shall we rate that?
I mean, this film is aggressively nothing, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. 2 minutes of plot happen. There's no jokes. There's bits where like the performance is meant to be funny, but none of it's funny. There's 2 actors in it who are kind of vaguely likable, but most of them are pretty shit and just bad. So I think I'm being incredibly generous when I give this 5 out of 10. Largely because there's that ghost in it, and it's just like, it's a marvel to see a ghost. Because you just don't... How often do you get to see a real life ghost? It just doesn't happen. It's like how they captured Tom Cruise breaking his ankle on camera in Mission Impossible 7. You kind of watch it and you think, oh, that's cool. And you see that ghost. So 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I think that is generous. I did not give it a 5. And the fact that I watched the original French film, it was the same film but done better. It just proved that it could be done better, basically. So I gave this a 3 out of 10. For the record, I gave Trois Hommes et un Couffin 7 out of 10.
Well, I give this film a 7 out of 10.
And it's one of your favourite films ever?
I could watch them I have watched them so many times, and I continue to want to watch them so many times. I'm genuinely gutted I didn't have time to rewatch them before this episode of recording.
Obviously, the film did well enough that they decided to make a sequel. 3 Men and a Little Lady. It was a few years later, 1990. The film that killed Steve Guttenberg's career, apparently, judging by his CV.
Rightly so.
But you see, Soul seems to be very down on this film. I would say that this film is far better than the first one.
Well, you're
I
wrong.
think Judey's on my side there because I think it's just better. It's better structured as a plot. I will grant you, it's not a good, original, interesting plot. But
bear in mind, Judey likes 3 men and a baby, so having her on your side isn't necessarily.
As a plot structure, it works. It hits all the sort of cliches and all that. The characters are much more well-defined. The whole thing's better directed. They're obviously getting better performances out of the actors. And that's why it's a far superior film. Even though it's still pretty
Fiona
trite.
Shaw in it, and she fucking rocks in this film.
I don't think I would agree with any of what you've just said, apart from it's got Fiona Shaw in it. All right, this is a note, okay? This is the level we're working at in terms of humour. They say, he's a normal guy. And then he walks in. And
good afternoon.
And he doesn't look like he's a normal guy, does he? He's dressed like a vampire. Is that good, is it? Is that funny?
Yeah, I laughed.
You laughed out loud.
It works.
I watched this when
as
I was
a
8
setup
or
and
9.
punchline.
Yes.
I mean, that's as much as I want, better than the first one.
It doesn't work though, does it? Because they know he's an actor, and anyone in their right mind would see a guy come in as a not particularly scary vampire and go, oh, and you go, oh yeah, I'm in character as a vampire.
The point is, he's been filming a TV commercial, and we know that TV commercials are crazy.
And so do all adults.
It's gimmicky.
Especially educated people who are holding meetings about fucking ownership of a child. Of course they're going to appreciate, oh yeah, he's an actor and he's in a commercial. That's good. It means he must have pretty stable income because, I mean, maybe, well, not stable income, but like he must have a fair bit of money coming in if he's doing TV ads. That's pretty good.
I think at best you would think, oh, he's turned up to a meeting in full costume. That's a bit weird.
Yeah, and then he says, I had to come straight from work. I had a hell of a time catching a cab. Like, it pays off.
And they would immediately go, fair enough, how funny. Haha, nice to meet you. But instead, because this film isn't set in any semblance of reality, which it needs to be for the humour to work, it's just like, oh, it's a vampire! Oh!
Well, no, she goes, oh my god.
My next note is Nancy Travis is shite. So, I mean, how much do you think they regretted the fact that they cast her for like that bit role in the first film, and now they were stuck
obviously
with her?
Not designed to be a role that was going to be in the whole film. I don't think she's that bad. I've got nothing particularly against her.
She's
not
appalling.
good.
She's fine. She talks about the kitten. She comes across as a
She's
sap. That's what she's meant to
awful.
do.
All right, next note.
She's not
45.
good, I'll give you that.
45 minutes in, and there isn't any plot again.
Yeah.
Bollocks.
Go on.
No, I think it's bollocks.
Yeah, and I said go on.
I mean, I can't remember what happens at the 45-minute mark. What are you referencing?
Any plot that happens up to 45 minutes.
Well, it's the same plot as the first film. That's the point. It's her growing up.
Well, I thought we established that there isn't any plot in the first film apart from this.
You established.
Apart from a really badly structured subplot involving drugs, which isn't in this one.
No, I said in the first film that I think the simplicity of three men having to work this out, that is the point of the plot. That's
so
it.
that's the plot in the second one. So we're completely undoing the character development and starting it.
It's enhancing it. You're showing more of a relationship between Sylvia and Peter. You've got the introduction of Edward.
Ooh, Edward. There's some bad acting for you.
Yeah, oh god, there is. Yeah, I hate him. But the ruck comes once the point is they're all settled. They're all doing what they do, and they've established a family unit, unorthodox as it is, and then you have to change it. There has to come the point where that changes and disruption happens.
The problem with that is that the change is not like something's happened and we have to deal with it. It's quite... it's much more her choice. She's choosing to leave them.
But hang on, what is the plot? Because basically what you've just said, Judy, is the plot is there's a beginning, middle and end. Like, what is the plot?
Well, the plot is the setup. The point there is the setup.
She wants to get married and have something a bit more stable. It means she's leaving them behind. They win her back.
Yeah, and 45 minutes in, there's nothing happening. There's no, like, real conflict. There's nothing.
They comment on Mary as the child and, like, the stability of the situation, and then the fact that they've all moved, like, Sylvia's come from nothing, and she's worked her way up, and she has got a good career. You get introduced to Edward.
She lucked her way
all of the
into
men doing very well.
sequel because she got cast in, like, this one-line role in the first film, and now she's landed like a lead role. But really,
I don't know. I mean, what we know is she's playing a lead role in a play directed by someone she's having sex with. So we know how she gets her roles. But
she's fairly high profile because of that. She's got her photo on the billboard, like outside the theatre. She gets cast in a play to go to the National.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay, that could be because she's sleeping with him, but the point is people know her and know of her now.
Yeah, but then that doesn't really work because we have all these jokes about Ted Danson being an actor and not very, stable. But she's an actor as well, and that's her income.
He's doing commercials and she's doing theatre.
Darling,
commercials
pay
way better than
yeah,
theatre.
I know, but it's depicted as highbrow and lowbrow, scrounging for scraps, picking up whatever he can do.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter in terms of can I look after this child?
No, but it doesn't. It's not about who can look after the child now. There's 4 incomes going into that. It's not now about who can look after the child. Like Peter is still an architect and he's doing really bloody well.
Let me ask you guys a question, right? Is the woman in this, right, Sylvia, the character's name is, are we supposed to hate her? Are we supposed to think she's a terrible, selfish person?
Well, that's certainly how I came at it.
I think we're supposed to think she's selfish
Really?
Are we? Because she never pays any
Yeah.
kind of repentance for that.
Yeah, and the happy ending involves her marrying.
Getting everything
There's
she
no
wants.
repentance, but it's the lesson that she has to learn.
When does she learn
She gets
it?
proved to be the
She
one.
never
who-
has
no.
to give anything up.
Well, that's not the only way to learn a lesson. It's the point is she's depicted as being flawed again, and she's having to say, "I need to put myself first."
I don't think she is depicted as being flawed. I think the film wants you to think she's a perfectly normal, like not particularly flawed person.
I don't think we're meant.
Other than
I know, I
she
don't
has
think
the
we're
wool
meant to
pulled
be-
over her eyes regarding her fiance.
I don't think we're meant to be happy with the fact that she chooses to move to England and take Mary with her and leave the men.
Only because the fiance's lying to her.
But again, they put up very little fight about that when she says she's moving away. They never go, well, hang on, what about it's our
Okay,
fucking
yeah,
baby
so
as
they
well.
they don't challenge it, but how is that not a flaw of the men?
Well, it's a flaw of the film, but the writing of the characters. But I think we're supposed to just accept that. Well, you know, she's a woman. She wants to be married. Obviously, that's the most important thing in someone's life. So that's obviously the thing that she needs to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who she gets married to, as long as they're very rich and can help further her career. But we don't even get this moment where she goes, oh, do you know what? I don't love this guy. I don't want to go through with this. I'd rather go with Peter. Because it only comes about after it's thrown in her face that he's been lying to her. And, get this, guys, he speaks in a rather stern voice to the child.
He calls her a little shit. But it's okay because Tom Selleck immediately uses physical violence to undo.
But it's
his
well,
words.
he uses physical violence because it's been a build up of other.
Oh,
stuff. He
and I
knows
mean,
he's been lying.
You can tell that the guy works in the theatre because, that was a theatrical punch, wasn't it?
Her character arc is never kind of like she learns a lesson. She never learns anything. She gets everything she wants, and other people bring it to her.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily handled well. I agree.
She doesn't have an arc. But beyond the writing, I think this film's fucking shit on every level. I've written down a quote just to emphasize how bad the acting and direction and just generally how it's put together is. The stilted delivery where Tom Selleck attempts to convince Sylvia not to marry Edward. And he says, Sylvia, you can't marry this guy. And she says, why not?
Why not? Tell me, Peter, I want to know.
No. It goes, why not? And then he goes, because. And he's about to start saying, and she goes, tell me, Peter, I want to know. He was telling you. He said because, and you cut him off.
Yeah, I've picked up on that before. But I think you can... I'd forgive that.
I laughed twice while watching this film, out loud.
Go on.
Was one of them Ted Danson grabbing a bouquet and looking at the camera like, oh?
Actually, I tell a lie, there was 3. I laughed out loud at that. I felt like I was laughing at it rather than with it, though, so I didn't count it.
I'll be honest, I gave this film an extra point purely for that ending. Bear that in mind when I give the rating.
Go on, what were the other points? I'm genuinely intrigued
Okay,
where Alan laughed.
well, one of them...
It's got to be
2
Ted
separate
Danson
laughs.
as a vicar.
Absolutely not. One of them was Sheila Hancock,
Right.
one of them was Fiona Shaw, the 2 best things in this film.
Sheila Hancock, the mother?
Yeah.
Which bit?
Well, she's they pick her up at the airport or whatever, and they go, oh,
Michael, Peter.
oh, Ted Danson can't be here, he's busy. And she goes, spreading his seed, no doubt.
Seed, no doubt.
That made me laugh. Because it kind of came out of nowhere. It was like, oh yeah, she doesn't like him, fair enough. And then
Cool.
the other one, no, I'm not proud of this. But it was it was really down to Fiona Shaw's performance, which I thought she was very good in this. I thought it was a
she's
weirdly
fantastic.
comic thing that perhaps didn't particularly fit with the rest of the film, but I liked it. And she just awkwardly goes over to what's his name, Tom Selleck, watching a marquee being put up, and she goes, "Not as impressive as your mighty erections, I imagine." So, you know, that made me laugh.
That made you laugh.
Yeah, it was because of the way she did it,
Shame
though.
on
It was
you.
it was just
I'm with
very
Judey.
well performed rather than a funny line.
She's doing the best with what she's got, but I mean, I've seen Fiona Shaw in stuff, and she's very good, and she's not good here. No one comes out of this film.
She
well.
is good here.
She's just.
She comes across
She's doing
well.
one.
Her character's
It's
a
one
a
weak
tit.
joke that's stretched out for about 40 minutes, and then immediately brushed
It's not
aside.
one weak joke. It's not.
All right,
one
it's
big-
one hilarious
she plays
joke.
No, she plays it really well all the way
It's
through.
one
like,
weak joke. She fancies him. She thinks he's gonna make a move. He's not even like aware that she's into
Okay,
it.
and I think she manages to find freshness with that
Yeah.
each time.
Look, I agree.
You know,
Yeah, I
there's
agree.
the erections line. There's the seek the auspicious moment and tell her, the bit where she kind of lingers and gives him a look. There's the we are creatures of the night
Yeah,
moment.
hated all of them.
And then what a gentleman, damn it. Like, she just plays it really well. And then when he gets in the car and he's like, you're a very attractive woman, she's like, oh, I know. You know, she does a really fucking fantastic really fantastic job with a small character who is comic relief. I think she does really well. I think Fiona Shaw's fantastic as an actress.
Yeah, so do I as an actress. She's doing...
And in this role.
I mean, she's doing very good work with what she's given.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she makes it work. I think it is quite a weak setup, and it's definitely handled badly when he just brushes her aside. But it is, she makes it work.
I don't think she does.
Considering, like you said, so it is one gimmick, she keeps it fresh and she keeps it engaging all the way through.
I think it's stale out the box. Write a letter to McVitie's and say, give me some vouchers, because I bought this and it's gone off, it's mouldy. And they'd go, well, it's got Fiona Shaw in it. And I go, yeah, look, I appreciate she's doing the best she could with the ingredients.
Hang on, so why are you saying that's stale?
Why are you using that weird metaphor?
Because it's not funny. Because I've seen this shit done 1,000 times before. Shakespeare was doing this shit, and it wasn't funny back then either.
I beg to differ. He's become one of the most famous playwrights in the world.
Well, yeah, but not because he's funny.
Yes, because he's funny.
No. I'll be honest, I felt bad. I felt bad watching this because she's better than this, and
I don't think she is. I think this is exactly her
she is
level.
exactly this. Yeah, this is exactly her.
She's very good. She's a very good actor. She's capable of much better than this shit.
I think the characters in general are much better handled by the actors and presumably the writer and director. They have much more of their personalities now.
Yeah, Ted Danson's now the master of disguise. And they properly lean into that, and it's like, okay, I mean, fair enough. That's his thing, is it? Fine.
Well, they've made a gimmick of him being the actor, haven't they?
I mean,
but at least they're making something.
That's what I mean. That was better than the first one.
Interestingly, guys, in the French film, that character is not an actor. He's an air hostess, and he goes off like 3 weeks, on some long distance, long haul flight stuff. So that's why he's away. But I found it interesting that they decided to change that. Obviously, Ted Danson couldn't handle the range of.
I think they chose actor because it was 1987 and everyone in America would be like, what, is he meant to be gay? What?
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. You can't have him be an air hostess because it makes him seem gay, even though the whole point of the character is that he's sleeping with loads of women.
Yeah. So talking about his disguises, it's all setting up his, the shittest Dick Van Dyke I've ever seen, basically. At the end of the film. Jack is the vicar.
Dick Van Dyke? No, Bruce Forsyth.
I mean, I am, of course, referring to Dick Van Dyke's portrayal of an old man in Mary Poppins.
Have you seen Mary Poppins Returns, where he plays an old man?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Less convincing.
He's genuinely just him.
It's not a bad British accent, to give him credit.
Well, obviously Nancy Travis is doing that Daphne out of Frasier British accent.
Oh, she does a really good British accent, though.
It's a very specific
Nancy
British
Travis
accent, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she's fucking awful.
Have you seen Jack?
I think he went out with Cassie.
Damn. He promised he'd rehearse this scene with me. I've got to do it in class tomorrow.
Well, you know Jack, he probably forgot.
Yeah.
I'll do it with you.
You?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Like, it's a specific kind of British accent, but I think she does it bloody well. If she's not British, is she American?
But that's like her British accent. Her British accent is like if I got cast as like a normal guy in an American film who lives in like New York or something. Just, let's say like a struggling writer in New York, and it's that kind of quirky rom-com. But I had to be American, and then I went there and I was like, "Well, gee whiz, Emma Stone, this is sure nice to meet you."
No.
Gee,
no,
golly
not at all.
gosh.
I don't. What my point is, her accent doesn't come across
it
like
does.
that. I think it comes across as.
Oh, hello.
No, it doesn't.
I'm from England, and
That's not what she sounds
is.
like.
Oh,
That's what Edward
oh my
sounds like.
gosh! So you're telling me my baby survived after I left it on your doorstep? Oh well, that is bloody good news. She's awful. I mean, yeah, it's an authentic British accent of a sort, but her performance is stilted
That's
as
exactly what I'm saying. It's an authentic British accent.
of a very specific sort that very few people actually talk like,
Yeah, okay,
and her
so-
performance is too stilted doing it to overcome it. She can't act in that accent.
Oh no, come on, you're being too harsh with her. What about the bit where she says, "Peter, all I wanted was a little help from you, and instead all I got was a hearty helping of your bruised ego." Like,
Peter!
all of that bit, she emotes.
All I got was a
She does
honey.
it well. That's not how it goes. It's not how it goes. It's not. Right, can you drop in a sound clip in this bit, please?
Oh, my ears. There you go. That's me reacting. That's me reacting to that clip.
As we all know, Judy, you probably know this very well, that theatre directors earn a lot of money and they live in country mansions. So,
what did you think of the comic relief Barrow, the butler?
yeah, weak.
You know, comic relief isn't really a phrase that you're meant to apply to a comedy, right?
Do you think the emotional story with the two of them, like, kind of falling in love and not being able to... Do you think that would have worked better if there was any connection between them at all? Any kind of emotional resonance to what they're doing? Or even between her and the director guy? Like, any believable emotional traits between any of them that would help us tell the story of people falling in love? Do you think that would help?
I think it could do with a bit more. Not gonna lie, I do think it could do with a bit more in this film, but I think...
I mean, the way it plays really is there's like one scene between the two of them, and then Tom Selleck, Selleck falls in love with her, and it's all the way it plays is like he thinks, "Oh, we've never spent any time with each other before, so I can't believe I've just fallen in love with her. I guess I would have fallen in love with her earlier, but we've never really met." That's how it plays.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't come across like they don't know each other.
Kind of does. It kind of comes across like two actors auditioning to be in this film.
I do think it's important that he has that talk with Ted Danson, 3/4 of the way through, when he's like,
"You fuck my wife?"
We made you the father.
God. Joe Pesci again.
Sorry, Judy, carry on.
So yeah, Ted Danson sits him down and says, "Look, I know I banged the first, but you can have a sloppy second if you want." As if they haven't all been shagging all the time anyway.
I have realised, actually, we haven't done a plot breakdown of the second one.
Well, there isn't a plot.
Come along.
Well, go on then.
More
go
of a plot
then.
in this one than the first one. No, Alan, go on, you did the plot of the first
They're
one.
all living together, they're raising this child together, all very happy. The woman decides that she wants to fuck them off and doesn't care about all the time and effort and presumably money they've put into their child.
On.
So she
Don't be
takes the
biased.
child away from them. They just accept this. They have to do a dash to the airport and stop her from leaving and declare
That's
love.
the first one.
Oh, yeah, sorry, dash to the wedding chapel because that's different.
So what happens is, before, she doesn't just decide to uproot
She
the
does?
kid. She says that she wants more. No, she says she wants more from her future. She wants to get married. She wants to have more
No,
children.
wait.
And so there's
She
a
doesn't
kind
say she
of-
wants more from you. She says she wants to get married. That's the important thing. She needs to be married.
And then she says to Edward, have another one, maybe even a dozen. She says she wants more kids.
Oh yeah, brilliant! More kids for her to leave on someone's doorstep.
But we've already established that you don't have to be married to have kids. She knows that better than anyone.
But the point is, she's talking about she wants something more from her future. She then starts looking for kind of a way to make that happen. The men start looking for candidates for her. She ends up giving Edward a chance, finally, who's a guy that's been perving on her at work. He's obviously not a guy to be trusted. We're not meant to like him. He's English. She goes to England to be with him, takes the kid with her. And then when they go over, when Peter and all the others go over to kind of try and support her and make amends and try and make things rosy again, they realise that he's a shitbag, so they uncover it, and then Sylvia and Peter get together as they were always meant to
I have a
be
question
at the end.
about at the end. There's this bit where, because Ted Danson pretended to be the vicar to like buy time, so
Yeah.
Although he marries them, it doesn't count because he's not licensed.
Yeah. He ordained.
And so that's a big twist where the husband to be, the fiance Edward, sort of goes, "Well, it may be very true that you don't want to marry me, but haha, you're already married to me." So he behaves like a fucking James Bond villain. He behaves like he's portrayed by John Malkovich, and it's like, well, what's his bit? Is she that much of a fucking prize chicken that he's that like excited
Well, I
about?
think at that point
having
he's
been
just
married
being
to her?
petty and wants to piss her off. You know. I think
Yeah, I was
she
gonna
got
say,
money?
he's being petty.
Oh, great! Now we'll have to begin divorce proceedings.
I don't think it's him kind of going, "Mwahaha, you're stuck with me." I think, like Alan says, it's kind of, yeah, well, this is a bit, distasteful, darling. Like, come on,
I
we've
think
just
he
got
possibly
married.
he's
I think it's
read her
pettiness.
character very well and knows that she's fickle and would probably go back with him 5 minutes later if he says the right thing.
Yeah, she probably believes in like some sort of sanctity of marriage to the point that she'd be like, "Oh, we are married. Oh well,
Yeah.
I guess
Well,
I'm
we're
stuck
married
with
now,
him
so
for
I'm
now."
going to stick with it.
Well, she does. She does
in
say
the eyes
that.
of
She
God,
says, "Oh
we
God,
must,
he's right."
we must make this work.
Do you want to know the note I made at this point?
Go
Right,
on.
I'm going to read this out verbatim. If Tom Selleck and Nancy marry right here, right now, after he confesses his love for her, then Judy's banned from the show.
That's not fair. The film was made in 1990, before I was even born, and you've brought me in deliberately to talk about this film this week.
I think that's fair, though.
Right, Alan, next time you extend an invitation to me and assume I'm doing it, I am not. So he messaged me and was like, "So are you doing this thing then?" It was like, "Well, ask me." He's like, "I did." I was like, "No, you didn't. You just stated." Am I
You
doing
said,
it?
"Oh, I think Judy will do it," and then at one point I said to it,
Judy went to the extent of going to another country and doing another podcast to force me to admit that I wanted her on the podcast.
Judy,
Can I put that down as a record that you've just put something on recording that said roughly I wanted her on the podcast, which is enough for me. I will take that inch.
Alan said, "Oh, I've made my pick for my next choice of episode. Judy really likes these films, so I think we'll do that. So we can do a film for her." And I went, "Okay." And then a bit later, I was like, "Oh, have you spoken about dates with Judy when we can record or anything?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, she's up for it." So I'm sorry if he's not.
Well, I got a message from Alan saying like, "We're going to do this film," and I was like, "Oh, awesome! Yeah, I've been telling you to for ages." And then there was like a big silence. He didn't reply for a while, and then it was, "Are you doing it then?" And it wasn't like a "Will you do it?" It was a, "Well, go on." Then.
I just like
Like it was the most obvious thing. It's just how you talk to me. Oh, you mean like Jurassic Park?
that's different. They're
like
good films.
When you
They're
were
films.
recording it in my
They're
bedroom
good films that
and
we
I was
would
writing
do
notes.
anyway.
I'm reading Jurassic Park at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, good. Me too. I'm rereading it. Which one are you on?
The Jurassic Park.
Oh, the second one's good as well.
Well, if it's anything like
What
the
do you think
film,
of the book?
it isn't. I'm really enjoying it so far. It's good.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I like the bit at the start where a baby gets killed. If this film
Okay.
if this film series began like with a little dinosaur ripping a baby's face off, I'd be well into it.
It's a giraffe.
What do you think of the kid playing like the acting of the child?
That's just
Standard.
typical shit child actor. Not a good one. Not one that particularly impresses you at all.
I don't think she comes across as a particularly bad one. I don't think she's the strongest, but she didn't irritate me.
Yeah, she's just
As an
she's
actor.
fine. As far as props go, it's quite a good one.
I mean, how old do you think the actress is in this film?
28.
Oh, you pillock. Like the kid. I don't. Why are you saying this?
I think she's about 6 months.
What? I don't get it. You guys. For fuck's sake.
No?
Why is this funny? And why are you laughing at yourselves? You spent too much time doing duo recordings. That's what's happened here.
I mean, it's funnier than this film, Judy. Come on.
She doesn't strike me. I don't think she can be older than 6.
Yeah, that's what I said. 6
No,
months.
you
That is not
I think
older
she
than
does
6,
really
Judy.
well
I've
for a
got to give you
6-year-old.
credit on
If
that
she's
she was born in 1984, so she would have been 6, maybe 5 when it was filmed. Even.
well, there you go. Now, I don't think she does a particularly bad job. I mean, how old was Mara Wilson when she was in Matilda?
Oh, 28.
Fuck's sake! Don't say 6 months again, Sol.
Do you reckon we can get Mara Wilson on this podcast?
Yes.
Nah,
No.
We'll do
nah.
Mrs.
She's
Doubtfire.
leaving. She's left her acting past behind her.
Well, yeah, but she's very active online with her twittering and her writing. And she wrote an article about being a child star for crack.com or something.
Well,
5 crazy things you never know about being a child star.
Meth? Is it that they give you meth all the time?
They used to. That's why, what's the name on Wizard of Oz? That's why Judy Garland was all coked up presumably also why that little person
Munchkin.
hangs himself in the background of that shot.
Right, I'm gonna have to look this up because this is. I don't know if this is as a soulism or if this is a genuine.
It's a genuine urban
or if
legend.
this is
yeah.
another. This is a genuine version of Soul talking about.
Did you know as well? Did you know when they made The
Wizard?
Wizard of Oz, they made it so that if you start it with the audio of Dark Side of the Moon playing, it syncs up. So if you want to get stoned, and
I'm
watch
not.
it.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna try that.
Did you know that Coca-Cola invented Father Christmas? He was green. He was green before that, and they made him red.
That's true. I think.
It's not true.
Like I said, I just think it's a better put together film. Frankly, it's not a good film. It's all very trite still,
know-
but it's better than the original.
Do you know that dust is 90% dead skin?
So I gave it a 6.
This is the worst film I've seen from the year 1990, and do keep in mind that Troll 2 came out in the year 1990. Basically, right, I struggle to find the time to watch. There's so much stuff I want to watch, and I barely have enough time to do anything as it is. So I really resent it when I feel like I'm watching something that isn't accomplishing something. If it's not like ticking a Best Picture nominee off a list, like, right, I've seen that now, or that's one of IMDb's top 250, or maybe just something I might enjoy on a personal level. I really hate it, and I mean,
Well, now you know how I feel every week on this fucking podcast.
I loathed this film. I genuinely cannot remember the last time I've hated a film that we've covered on this podcast as much as this. It might be Resident Evil. I despised this film. I give it 2 out of 10, and do remember
Generous.
what I said, that one of those points is for Ted Danson grabbing the bouquet and kind of gurning at the camera at the end. It is one of the worst films I've ever seen.
See, I think that's very harsh. This is a very by-the-numbers bland film, but to take such exception to it is...
I think you're being deliberately bloody.
I'm not. Genuinely, this film was devoid of humour.
I think it's ridiculous that you give Mamma Mia a 5, you give The Room a 1, and this is one step up from The Room.
Well, I think it's
that's
ridiculous
outrageous.
that you give The Iron Giant a 4 and Three Men and a Baby a 7.
So it is possible for people to have different opinions. Interesting.
Like, honest to God, like, when I say this is one of the worst films I've ever seen, right, I'm not... I genuinely mean that, but I am talking in a very broad sense, like bottom 100, you know? I'm not saying it's like... I'm not like Alan, where I go, it's going straight on my worst 5 films ever list. Bottom 100.
I think it's interesting, so because I would say that this is quite a bland film, but the fact that you take such sort of
That's what I
aggressive
mean.
kind
Yeah.
of hate
being
to
so
it,
passionate
Yeah,
about
because-
it.
it's interesting.
because
I'm interested as
that
to what
I hate
that
blandness.
is.
Because at least if something's bad, it's usually because it's taken a swing and a miss. And this film aspires towards.
It doesn't try to do anything.
It
Yeah,
is.
I'll give you that.
It is. It's just lazy.
I don't see how you see it as any different from Mamma Mia 2.
Because Mamma Mia 2 Mamma Mia 2 was trying to do something. It did it badly. It's offensive that people have been given millions of dollars to make art, and this is what they choose to do with it. It's just, but it's like, just hire one funny writer to put some jokes in the film, for fuck's sake. I hated it.
A very visceral reaction.
You know, there was a third film knocking around for a while. I don't think it's ever going to happen.
3 Men and the
Yeah,
Bride.
they keep talking about it, threatening it.
Yeah. Also, I didn't rate it.
Oh
but
yeah,
okay.
what'd you give it?
8.
Oh my god. Jesus Christ. 3 Men and a Bride, though. What would you make of that?
I'd watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, it would make me sad to see Tom Selleck and Ted Danson and Steve Guttenberg, who, I won't lie, I thought was dead. I found out this evening he's not. I'd be very sad to see them being them.
Really?
I wish they'd made it in like 2000.
Ted Danson's looking
Yeah.
better than he ever did. Throughout these films, I was a bit annoyed because I wanted him to be old man Ted Danson.
Yeah, good point. Tom Selleck isn't though.
I've not seen Tom Selleck
Ted
recently.
Ted Danson could maybe get away with it. Steve Guttenberg potentially get away with it. Tom Selleck just isn't. No.
Steve Guttenberg might look great. No one's seen him for 30 years.
Well, I Google imaged him earlier.
Hey, I think Tom Selleck's looking all right. I've just Googled him, 2019. He's looking all right.
Yeah, but I don't think he'd come across as Peter. I think he'd be like, oh, it's old Tom Selleck. Whereas I think Ted Danson could still play Jack, you know, in terms of refilling the character's shoes.
Three Men and a Bride's kind of the obvious way to do a sequel, isn't it? It's probably what I do, is just pick up with them now. I do.
It's such a cool
I do take issue with
concept.
the title, because Three Men and a Little Lady is a title that bends over backwards to sound a little bit like Three Men and a Baby. So I think it should be like Three Men and a... They've already done Lady. Three Men and a... Baby.
Rabies!
Three Men and a Rabies. It's a zombie movie. We fixed it.
There you go.
Three Men and a...
Three men and Hades.
Oh,
They all die,
rabies.
go to hell.
Three men and a baby's baby, and they have to like look after the grandkid.
That would be the obvious way to go
Three
with
men
it.
is-
She gets herself...
3 men and a
Not
baby's
till-
baby.
Yeah. Three men and the lady's baby. Bit of a mouthful, but it's like a Dr. Seuss.
I still think 3
Dr.
men and a
Seuss,
bride.
but
I think you go gender swap. That's the way you go with it. Three women and a baby. It's a new take on it.
Yeah, I mean, it would be fine. It's just I know it would fall into exactly the same
Oh, I mean, that's
terrible comedy that I'm not enjoying.
that
at
is
the moment.
exactly the sort of thing that would be getting made right now.
And like I said, Kristen Wiig and Melissa
Nah,
McCarthy, you just know.
Nah,
it.
Kristen
They need a
Wiig's
new
better than that.
generation. Yeah.
Tiffany Haddish.
Mindy
Tiffany
Kaling.
Haddish.
Mindy
Who
Kaling
dat?
would be one of them.
Who?
Yeah,
Who?
Mindy
Who are these
Kaling,
people?
Tiffany Haddish, and
Mila Kunis.
Aubrey Plaza. There you go. That's your right one.
That's a good one, actually. She'd be the Steve Gutenberg.
And who would be the baby? Danny DeVito.
Ew, no.
Come back next week for something more upbeat, hopefully. What are we doing, Alan?
What
Yeah,
are you
we
doing next week?
You're going to like it, though, listeners. You're going to like it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Judy.
There you go.
You'll have to come back and do a good film next time.
You.